Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Executive on it's Tuesday, the 11th of March, and I'm Councillor Claire Douglas, and I'm the leader of the council. And Executive is one of the two main decision-making bodies of the council. So thanks everybody for joining us. And going directly to the agenda, first of all, we have apologies for absence, and I have apologies from Councillor Jenny Kent. Item number 2 is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Thanks everybody for that. And item number 3 is the minutes, to approve and sign the minutes of the executive meeting held on the 21st of January 2025. Can I see those who are in approval of the minutes? Thank you. So that's unanimously approved. Thanks very much for that. And I should perhaps go back a step, and sorry, Councillor Fenton, I totally skipped you by. So generally, Councillor Eyre attends as a non-voting member of executive, and he can't be here this evening. So Councillor Fenton is here on his behalf and in his stead. So thank you for attending and welcome to executive. Next item on the agenda is public participation, item number 4. And today we have 5 people who are speaking in public participation. For those who are doing that for the first time today, that gives you the opportunity to come and sit at the table and take 3 minutes to give us your comments on any item that's on the agenda or anything that falls under the remit of this committee. So I'll call everybody up in order, and generally I offer to give a 30-second warning for that 3 minutes if you would like me to, and I will ask you individually if you'd like me to do that or not. So first of all, we have Alison Semments, who is going to come and speak to us about the Poverty Truth Commission, item number 8. And she's going to give us some background and context around the item that we have on the agenda. So welcome, Alison. Would you like me to give you 30-second warning? Yes, okay, thank you very much. So please, off you go.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say a few words about the background of the Poverty Truth Commission, just to give a bit of context. So you might not be aware that it was actually the council that was a catalyst for the Poverty Truth Commission pre-COVID. So we first had conversations in 2020 and then COVID hit. Basically, the council had £20,000 to put towards the Poverty Truth Commission, which was great. In those days, there was money to do stuff. So COVID came, got in the way. A year later, we picked this up again, and we went to the Magic Money Tree, and the £20,000 turned into £80,000 thanks to donations from local organisations across York, and then we were able to sort of crack on with the commission. So we had an event in October of 21 to ask the people of York, do you want a Poverty Truth Commission? And the resounding response was, yes, we do. York being York, there was a bit of cynicism. Is it going to be tokenistic? Is anything actually going to be achieved? And I'll let you be the judge of that. Well, you've been part of it anyway, Claire, so you know. We had raised the money. So in March 22, we took on our 2 coordinators and the work began. So our first job was to find the community commissioners, so people with experience of poverty. So we were looking for special people, so people who would be willing to tell their story, often traumatic stories, time and time again. People who would be able to sort of see the commission through to the end, quite a time commitment, and people who could see the bigger picture as well as their own situation, so we could look at how we could bring about change for the greater good. So we found our fantastic commissioners, as you know, and we worked with them for about a year. And then it was time to bring on the civic commissioners. And one of the concerns that has come out of the October event was, will civic commissioners have the time, energy and willingness to bring themselves to the commission? And I have to say that was one of my concerns as well, because city leaders are extremely busy. These are really challenging times. But I have to say, you know, we had a fantastic collection of civic commissioners who brought the whole of themselves to the commission and, you know, truly were dedicated and committed throughout the whole process. So that was a big relief. just thinking about the achievements from the Commission. So one of the other concerns was, will it actually achieve anything? And obviously we've got the standards which we're going to be talking about this evening. But I think apart from that, you know, we've opened up the conversations about poverty. We've heard a lot from people with experience of poverty. We've heard what makes lives better for them. We've heard how we can make that difference. So I think apart from the fantastic standards, I think we have opened up the conversations about poverty, and certainly I've changed as a person and learnt a lot from it as well. So this is why it's important for you to adopt these standards, which I'm pretty sure you will. The Commission is now ending, so we finish our work with it at the end of March. Hopefully the Commissioners will carry on in their own right to keep the standards alive. So I'll just finish by thanking all of the community commissioners for bringing their enthusiasm, their challenge, their positivity to the Commission, and the civic commissioners for doing exactly the same thing as well. And a final thank you to Ali and Gary, who were our coordinators at York CBS, who led the whole process.
Thank you.
On.
Thanks. Yes, well, kind of. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. So next we have Gwen Swinburne, who is going to talk about the scrutiny and the scrutiny review and forward plan. So 3 minutes. Would you like me to give you 30 seconds? Okay, thank you. Off you go.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful that most members yesterday appeared to support a 3 scrutiny system, which I hope will focus on corporate and scrutiny overview, people and place. Alternate month scrutiny committees were also supported, as were regular all backbencher and opposition briefings on topics to be decided by members. This would save the time of democratic staff. This would leave room for task and finish work, which in my view is the exception rather than the rule. This is because if the scrutiny process is provided with proper forward plans, as well as a forward procurement plan, a full suite of strategies to monitor, harmonise and hopefully reduce, a far more comprehensive quarterly performance report to include a report of the very dated and, in my view, inadequate scorecards, members will already have a far more current and accurate scrutiny information before them. I wanted to thank members yesterday picking up the importance of the forward plan, a clear recommendation from the consultants left off the draft officer plan for some reason. I also wanted to thank Councillor Merritt for ensuring that all the multiple and other unaddressed recommendations in the consultants' report will be picked up. These are significant gaps, and I cannot quite understand why they were not included in the draft officer plan. On specifics, Chair, I would start with an immediate scrutiny of the HR practices to understand why so many senior officers are leaving and the bizarre salary levels. The Chief Operating Officer is not immune from scrutiny, whatever he may tell you. Additionally, in terms of the many strategies around the place, I would propose that a first job alongside the forward plan for the scrutiny officer would be to gather all the directorate strategies that no one knows about. They're all disparate, and get them consolidated so they can be addressed by scrutiny and obviously yourselves, hopefully consolidate them. Likewise, a forward plan of major procurements so we don't end up, as so often, with expensive extensions. Finally, Chair, the officer plan uses 22 auxiliary verbs, or as I call them, get out of jail free words: should, could, and would. This is poor practice. May I ask that each be strengthened before going to full council? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll consider that on the relevant agenda item. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker today is Ms. Kate Parkin, and she is going to come and speak to us about the Poverty Truth Commission, which is under agenda item 8. So, Kate, if you want to take the seat, and then you'll see that there is a mic button in front of you. If you press the button, then it should go green, and now you should be able to be heard. So shall I give you 30-second warning? Yeah, okay. Off you go.
Okay. The Charter will help so many and make York a healthier, fairer, more sustainable and accessible place. It will help the 10-year anti-poverty strategy, and it will remove barriers, making it easier to build relationships with people in poverty and the real people, and the council, sorry. And the reason why I'm so passionate is because me and the other commissioners would all came together. We've lived in poverty, and many of us faced massive discrimination and stigma, and we weren't treated very kindly by people who have the role of support worker. So you could ask yous and you would say, well, they should be kind. Like, all we're asking for is kindness, and that's what this charter is for. Because you could say, well, they're already doing that, but we are promising you we're the truth part of this, and we haven't been met with kindness. And what we feel is that when you're in poverty and you've got nothing and you're not stable, you need somebody to be kind. Sorry, this is hard doing it. So we've shared our real world experiences and we came to the conclusion of kindness. That's all we want, people to treat us with empathy, kindness. So then the reason for these standards to be took is if people are saying they're doing that, then if there's a charter, people say actually they weren't kind or they weren't, so that's what we're doing it for, because it really matters and it makes a difference when you've got health, mental health, and a lot. You could say, well, how do we know the person's in poverty? Sometimes if you're in a hostel, you're living in a hostel, you've got nothing, you're in poor. So all we're asking for then is kindness, somebody to treat you like a person, like a human, because you already feel like you're dirt. And am I nearly done? Oh, sorry, am I still okay? Yeah, so yes, it's had a massive impact on all of us. We all feel like we're giving something back and we feel better for it. And we've made a massive impact already. We've trained some doctors and nurses, and every organisation's taken it on board, and every organisation should want to, because we're asking for kindness. We're not asking for money, we're just asking for people to treat us like human beings. And we are prepared also to help train the staff and bring our lived experience. So then it gives a tangible story to it rather than it just be statistics. What we don't want is for you to tick a box and say, yes, we've done it. We're here to check to see if you're doing it, because that makes a difference between life or death, like wanting to end your life. That's why we've worked with the council and other commissioners to get to the point where we can make a difference to prevent more being discriminated. And if the charter is adopted, we would like to also be part of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Well done. Well done. Our next speaker is Mr. Jamie McPherson. Jamie, I think that the mic's still on. Is the green dot on? Switch it back on again, and then you've got 3 minutes. Do you want me to give you 30-second warning?
That'll be all right.
You're all right. Okay, off you go. Thanks.
Well, I'm one of the original Poverty Truth Commissioners when it first started. It started over 2 years ago. There's been 10 people there when we first started. I got approached at the community centre in Tank Hall. It's been absolutely perfect there. We've got key members that have left. We've got people that are still there willing to fight for it. Obviously, I've come back from a bad background. You know what I mean? I've lived in poverty. I've been in the army. I came out the army. I was homeless. Obviously, a lot of people don't talk to you the way they should do. So we've basically done a charter ourselves, and it's working well. We listen, we understand, we respect, and friendly. We respond honestly about getting the right support. This is why I think that this should be the way in York, and this is why we should do it in York. We have got tourists here, we have got students here, but a little bit of politeness and a caring word travels a long way. And I believe that the Poverty Truth Commission has done it the right way. We have brought it from the depths and brought it out into the light. And I think that York should take it on board and start working with it.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for that, and thanks for coming along today, Jamie. Really appreciate it. Well done. And then our final speaker today is Flick Williams, and she wants to speak or ask us questions in advance of the government's spring statement. So Flick is remote. Flick, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, you don't want a 30-second warning, so I won't give you one. So if you're ready, off you go. Thank you.
Having set this authority's budget, I have some questions relating to the personal finances of citizens, particularly those of us who are disabled, of working age and assessed as unfit for work, and how this will impact upon the council's ability to manage its own spending. You recall that this government's first budget last autumn set a rise of 4.1% for state pensions, in sharp contrast to a rise of only 1.7% for working age benefits from next month. You have set a council tax increase of 4.99%. Average energy price rises are 6.3%. Yorkshire water prices rise by 29%, and retail price index inflation currently 3.6%, although likely to rise again when the NI hike increases prices across the board. For the poorest citizens, this spells being pushed ever deeper into grinding poverty. Rent and council tax arrears will inevitably rise. Together with food bank use, debts get deeper. Those of us in receipt of personal independence payments, a non-out-of-work benefit designed to meet the additional costs of being disabled, increasingly report using it to fund subsistence living instead. And for those with high support needs, whose PIP funds their social care contributions, their minimum income guarantee effectively shifts more of the rising costs of care to this authority, while still effectively leaving them with virtually nothing. The crisis is already here and worsening rapidly. It is hard for all York's poorest citizens, but for those of us without prospect of working owing to impairment or caring responsibilities, we have no means to improve our financial situation. Poverty becomes penury and destitution. The contents of the spring statement, now leaked, will take us from crisis to catastrophe. Austerity kills. It is estimated that these cuts will lead to 700,000 premature deaths. So my questions are these. Whilst I don't imagine you are happy about this, what steps will this administration be taking to push back against a Labour government impoverishing the very weakest and already most disadvantaged citizens still further? Do you agree with your party leader that there will be no life on benefits? Do you concur that those assessed as unfit to work can be starved into work? Are you prepared for the mental health emergency that these proposals are already generating amongst the desperate? How did the party of Keir Hardie turn into the cruel, callous eugenicist party of Keir Starmer? Is that the party you joined, the one you wish to remain in and be forced to defend, the one that now apparently believes you incentivise the rich by giving them more, but incentivise the poor by giving them less than subsistence? How do you reconcile this with your priority of creating a city that promotes health and well-being and reduces health inequalities? Make no mistake, this is austerity beyond where even the Tories were prepared to go. It now wears a red rosette. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Flick, and we will answer your questions, and I request that we write a written response to your request there, if that is okay. Okay, gone, right. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so next item then that we move on to is item number 5, which is the forward plan. Can I see those in approval of the forward plan? So that's approved unanimously. Thank you very much for that, everybody. Item number 6 is the fostering framework, and we have Martin Kelly here, I believe, to introduce that to us. So if officers want to come to the table. So we've got Martin and Michael Kavanagh with us this evening. So thank you very much for attending. So who is going to start us on here. Martin, you're going to start off, please. Thank you. Off you go.
Thank you, Chair. So over the past 18 months, we've given absolutely relentless focus on making York home for children who become looked after in the city by the local authority. Despite significant national challenge around placement sufficiency, we've made substantial progress on keeping children close to us in York. As part of the strategy and to ensure we continue our progress, we've completed a substantial review of our fostering service and support to foster carers. Michael's going to now take us through the review and the subsequent recommendations.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Chair. This report sets out proposals to introduce a new fostering fee framework and has been the result of our internal review of the fostering service, making things better for everyone. The proposed fee framework is competitive and it is fair. It will improve our ability to recruit and retain carers and improve the long-term financial sustainability of our fostering service. Some additional benefits are improving the overall financial offer by increasing the weekly fees paid to foster carers, improving our recruitment and retention of foster carers, thereby reducing the need to spend on independent fostering agency care arrangements, and introducing a clear differentiation between the different skill levels and ensuring that our foster carers receive the right support and the right training. There will be some challenges in adopting this proposal. For example, there will be initial increase in costs. However, these will eventually level out over time as carers are reassessed and positioned appropriately on the new skill fee matrix. And any significant change is likely to cause some uncertainty and anxiety within the fostering service, both for staff and foster carers. However, this has been mitigated as much as possible by consulting with foster carers and staff and proposing a fee protection for existing packages of care in order to carefully manage the process. The City of York Council has statutory duties under the Children Act 1989 to provide sufficient homes to meet the needs of children who are being looked after. We want to ensure that wherever possible, children and young people who are in our care and from York are looked after in York, close to their family, friends and their connected networks. This is in line with our practice model, Building Brighter Futures. The fostering regulations and national minimum standards provide a clear framework for foster carers and staff with regard to how fostering services should be delivered, how foster carers should be assessed, and what foster carers can expect to receive by way of support. The City of York Council looks after around 200 children and young people in fostering care arrangements in a combination of our own mainstream foster homes, kinship carers, and those arrangements that are commissioned through independent foster care agencies. Our average weekly spend on foster care is significant. Approximately 60% of costs relate to our own mainstream and kinship arrangements, but 40% relate to care arrangements that we've had to commission through independent foster care agencies. The City of York foster carers receive two types of weekly payment: child allowance, which covers the cost of food, clothing, activities, and a skills fee, which is remuneration paid to the foster carers for their services. The current weekly skills fee is paid to our mainstream carers is based on a framework level from 1 to 3 banding. The weekly fee ranges from £65 per week for level 1 up to £496 a week, which is level 3. Around 90% of our mainstream foster carers are paid at the highest fee level, which is level 3. This is significantly disproportionate. It does not align to the population of children and young people in York, nor does it match to the fostering levels in other authorities. A capacity fee is also paid to foster carers to look after additional children, and this is calculated as a percentage of the weekly fee. In addition, a weekly child allowance is paid to foster carers to cover the cost of caring for the child, and these are contained within the report and based on the minimum amount recommended by central government. As part of this review, we benchmarked our weekly payments against 12 other local and neighbouring authorities and identified that our entry fee level of £65 a week was the second lowest that was paid. However, the level 3 skills payment was highly competitive. We also identified a financial gap between each of our weekly skill payments that was significant, and as well as an additional delegated authority payment, which was totally unique to York. Delegated authority is about carers having consent to make decisions for the child in their care. It was never designed to be a payment. So moving on to our proposal, before I go on to summarise the proposal, I do want to acknowledge the enormous respect and appreciation and admiration for our foster carers in the City of York. The contribution they make every day to the lives of some of our most vulnerable children and young people is simply remarkable. They are ordinary people doing an extraordinary job. This is why it's important that foster carers are paid well and that they are paid fairly. The proposal is to introduce a fee structure comprising of 4 new paid levels with improved weekly payments to all foster carers, details of which are contained within the report. These proposals increase the weekly skills fee and introduce a new advanced plus level, providing a much more balanced incremental structure. The aim over time is to reduce the number of our highest paid carers and have a more evenly balanced proportion of carers at each of the skills level, bringing us in line with other local authorities. The introduction of improved weekly skills fee across the board will enable us to recruit more carers and improve our sufficiency capacity without the need to commission these homes through high-cost independent fostering agencies. The average weekly cost of such is about £920 per week, which equates to approximately £48,000 per year per child. This fee is significantly more than the cost of our own level 3 specialist foster care arrangement. Now, adopting these proposals will incur initial costs in the short term until these measures are fully realised. These costs have been calculated at around £149,500 per year. However, by adopting this proposal and making some much needed changes to our existing fee structure and allowances, we can forecast immediate savings of £131,500 a year. Therefore, the actual cost of moving to this proposal would be £18,500, which we propose is funded through growth. Further immediate and longer term savings, the fostering recruitment strategy sets out our ambitious plans to recruit 50 new foster carers over the next 5 years. Increasing the number of our in-house carers will significantly reduce our reliance on commissioning homes from independent foster care agencies. As well as these being more expensive, they are often outside of York, further away from the child's family, friends and connected networks. Further savings will be made in the long term as a number of level 3 foster carers convert from one fee level to another. We are committed to supporting our carers through this transition, learning the lessons from other authorities who have undertaken a similar path. Therefore, we have put children and foster carers front and centre of this proposal by also including pay protection for the skills fee to all foster carers for the duration of care for each child that is currently placed with them. This will provide more certainty in the short term for foster carers and provide more stability for the children in their care. All foster carers will be reassessed using a newly developed skills and competency framework that sets out clearly the requirements for each of the skills level. We will also consider other factors such as training, experience, individual skills and contribution. It is important to note that this framework has been modified from existing frameworks in place in other local authorities. It is a tried and tested system. In terms of risk and mitigations, there are significant financial risks associated with not having a fair and structured fee and skills matrix. It will continue to impact on our ability to recruit new carers, manage costs for in-house fostering provision and the commissioning of external provision. There are risks in not being able to meet our obligations under the sufficiency duties as outlined in the Children Act 1989, and this proposal provides mitigations to those risks by providing local foster care homes that are of high quality, affordable and local. Recommendations today. It is recommended that the exec supports the introduction of the proposed new skills and fee levels, and this is outlined in option 3 of the report. In supporting this proposal, we would ensure that the City of York Council continues to provide a range of foster care options to meet the needs of children that is aligned to the overall sufficiency strategy that is both cost effective and financially sustainable. The skills and fee framework are fairly applied to all foster carers with much greater accountability placed on the service and foster carers to evidence their individual skills level, and that fostering was seen as an attractive option for new carers, therefore increasing our internal resources and reducing spend on externally commissioned fostering arrangements, continued to ensure that children are living closer to their families and wider connected networks. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that, Michael. Can I see if anybody would like to speak on this item, please? Okay, Councillor Fenton, would you like to go ahead? Thank you.
Yes, just briefly, Chair, thank you. And thank you to officers for obviously a lot of work and consultation that's gone into producing the recommendations that have been brought forward. It's particularly welcome to see the continued commitment to reducing dependence on agency foster care services, as we've seen with a reduced dependency on agency social workers, which, as we know, makes such a huge difference to the experience of looked after children. Obviously, we all take our responsibility as a corporate parent seriously, and I think it's obviously very welcome to see that the progress has been made in further improving what's already a good system. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. Councillor Webb?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Michael and Martin, but Michael in particular for all of your work on this. I think it's a big piece of work and shouldn't be underestimated. And I think I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our foster carers. I think, Michael, you summed it up really well, that these are ordinary people doing an extraordinary thing. And, you know, we've got around about 200 young people in the city. Myself and Councillor Lomas, we attended the annual Care Day event in this very room a couple of weeks ago, where we were celebrating all things to do with care. And it was absolutely fantastic to see foster carers and their young people in their care in this room really just being celebrated. But you could really tell that the foster carers bring so much to those young people's lives. It's a fantastic thing. I always take an opportunity for all the millions of people who are watching this broadcast. Please get in touch with the council if you think you could be a foster carer. We always would welcome more foster carers, and I really hope that this proposal actually incentivises that a little bit more. Ultimately, it's about improving lives for young people. Part of the council plan, which came directly from our manifesto, one of the items on there is reviewing the fostering service to improve the service as best we can. And I think that's what this does. It looks at providing training and support for foster carers. It does, of course, require investments to get this going, but in the long term, that will actually improve the offer that we can provide at the City of York Council, and it also brings City of York in line with other authorities. Because it is an essential improvement for recruitment and retention. I'm really pleased that this will result in increasing weekly fees and that first level foster carer, which is, you know, where we want the majority of our foster placements to be. There's an improvement in that as well. And ultimately, if you look at this, what it is about making sure that we have the appropriate foster carer in front of the appropriate child, if you see what I mean. It's about making sure that that matches up better. And that, I think, is addressed within this paper. And I think, finally, it's worth noting the consultative approach that's been taken. This isn't something that is being done to foster carers. This is something that has been done with foster carers, and why it's taken time to get to where we are. But it was the right approach. And, you know, we've talked several times now about that fee protection for current placements. That is really important. So this isn't a shock. This isn't a big change. This is something that will happen gradually. But because of that initial investment, it will improve the service dramatically. So once again, thank you for your work. Thank foster carers for their work day in, day out, night in, night out. And if anybody else wants to think about fostering, look on the council website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Webb, and obviously a big call out to potential foster carers out there, and I'll make that statement again. Please do get in touch if you are at all interested in even finding out more information. So on that note, we'll move to the recommendations, which are on page 32 at paragraph 60. And it says there that it's recommended that the council executive supports the introduction of the proposed new skills and fee levels, and that is outlined in option 3 of the report. And so can I see those who are in favour of those recommendations, or that recommendation? Thank you. So that's unanimously approved. Thank you very much. So there you go. You now have a new fostering framework to get on and implement, as I generally say at the end of these. Thank you very much for attending today, and please pass our thanks on to the team for all the work that they're doing with our children, young people and foster carers. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Right, the next item on our agenda is the residential housing retrofit update. So we today have Michael Jones, Pauline Stutchfield and Anthony Dean that are going to introduce this report to us. So who's going to start the process? Michael, off you go, please. Oh, there we go. New job title there, Assistant Director of Housing. Congratulations and welcome to your first executive in that role.
Thank
Off
you
you
very
go.
much, Chair. So this is the latest retrofit report to come before executive, seeking to build on the ambitions of reducing carbon emissions, reducing fuel poverty, and improving the thermal efficiency of the homes in the city to improve the health and wellbeing outcomes for our residents. So the report sets out progress in delivering various retrofit works in both the private sector and within council housing. And the report outlines that all of the projects are progressing well. So that includes hundreds of retrofit works delivered on the ground, lots of people being trained around green skills to give us the capacity to deliver more in the future, advice to around 500 households on how to implement retrofit works themselves, plus the setting up of Your Energy, which is a dedicated retrofit advice platform for the city. And I'd like to thank Ant and his team for, and those delivering council house retrofit work for an amazing job of delivering some really challenging retrofit works, which is very difficult in the current climate. We're also about to sign a contract with a delivery partner for retrofit works at Honeysuckle House and Alex Line House, which is mayoral grant funded, which will deliver about £2 million worth of works to decarbonise the heating system for those residents and reduce their fuel bills by about 50%. The report was written at a time when we'd made grant applications. So 2 programmes of retrofit activity, one called Warm Homes Local Grant, which is works in the private sector, one called Warm Homes Social Housing Fund. A few hours ago, we were formally announced that we were successful in those grant applications. So in the private sector grant, we've been awarded around £2 million, which we will deliver retrofit works to low income energy efficient houses in the private sector. We estimate that that will deliver about 140 energy efficiency improvements to those homes. In the world of council housing, we've been awarded about £1.4 million, which will be topped up to about £2.4 million of investment in retrofit for council houses, which again would deliver, we think, just over 140 retrofit works in those council homes. So the substantive part of this report is outlining the opportunities around there, and we're seeking permission to accept the grant funding, to procure delivery partners to deliver that work, and also so that would deliver, so that gives us a really good platform for investment in the next 3 years to deliver retrofit work. But just by way of information, we're currently exploring other grant funding opportunities around retrofit, particularly with the Mayor, and hopefully in the coming months we'll be able to bring some further investment opportunities forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. And Pauline, do you want to say anything at this point? Pauline, please go ahead.
I just think this report is a real testament of all the work that's been done in the city, and each section of this report is a nugget of real achievement and will make a real difference to those people who live in those homes. So I commend this report to the team. They've been incredible, and I have no doubt that they will deliver against the targets that are set for the grant funding. We look forward to our residents being warmer and living in more affordable homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anne, do you want to add anything?
I don't think I've really got much to add to what's already been said, other than obviously the opportunity it gives our residents in New York to be able to improve their energy efficiency, carbon reduction, and also the financial impact of living costs, reducing fuel costs as well. So obviously I would be very keen for approval on that basis.
Thank you. Thanks. So could I see who'd like to speak on this item, please? Councillor Fenton, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and firstly, congratulations on securing the funding. I know from reading the paper, it was obviously heavily oversubscribed, so well done. And I know from the period between 2020 and 2023, officers were very successful at securing a number of grants, and obviously the delivery of those schemes are now coming to an end. So it's good that that pipeline of funding has continued, and it's good that the retrofit action plan that was agreed in, I think, December 2022 is still bearing fruit, and hopefully that will be reviewed and refreshed in due course as new opportunities arise. I know that the executive member has ambitions in terms of the number of council homes you'd like to see insulated, and hopefully this can help you get nearer to that target, Councillor Pavlovic. Just a quick comment on the some sort of trailblazing schemes in terms of the independent living complexes, which are not without issues that need to be resolved. And I'm sure those of us who've been involved in some discussions around those schemes have learned a lot. And so I suppose it's really a question in terms of what learning can we take from those schemes and other more complicated retrofit schemes that you've been delivering with a whole range of different house types and different challenges. And I'm sure when you start work, you find things you hadn't expected to find when you sort of pull a partition wall down. So it'd be interesting to know what kind of learning you think we can sort of take forward into hopefully a scaled up scheme of insulation and retrofit works. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. I'll let Councillor Pavlovic come in, and then I'll come back to you, officers, for any comments you'd like to make, if that's okay. Councillor Pavlovic.
Thank you, Chair. For the purposes of this, I am the exec member for housing, but I'm also Councillor Jenny Kent, because she's also played a massive part. And I want to start, obviously, by thanking the officers for the work that they've put into not just this report, but into the work that's been done, and also the skills that they bring to these funding applications. And I think it's testimony to the work that has been done that government have confidence in York and City of York Council to be able to deliver on the funding that they allot. And it's not surprising that it's oversubscribed, because we know just how significant the issue of cold houses are, not just on the health and well-being of our residents and residents across the country, but also on the cost of living. And we've heard today from our public speakers across a whole range of agenda items for today, just what the impact of poverty can have on mental health, on physical health. And so we need to do all that we can as a council, not just with those people that live in council properties, but we've seen from the report that the vast majority of houses with EPC ratings of D or below are within the private sector, both private rented and owner occupied. So anything that we can do to support those individuals, not just with the practical work, but also with how to get there, the advice, the support, the information that people need, to make sure that the choices that they're making are the right choices, but also that the people that they go to can be relied upon to deliver the work. And that's incredibly important, because, you know, this is expensive stuff in some cases, and in a lot of cases it's expensive works that are being undertaken. And by training people up to deliver that work, you know, it goes to the heart of our council plan. This government and this administration's ambitions, and Councillor Fenton very kindly talks about the ambitions that we have, but we have them for a reason, because we know how important this is for the city and for our residents, not just in improving a skill set, but also on the difference that it can make to individuals. And it's good that Councillor Fenton is here, because he's getting used now to me announcing projects that deliver in his ward, which after full council of last week and today, just go to show that we don't cherry pick the work that gets undertaken. So you're welcome. So the recommendations are outlined on page 61, and I do commend them to executive for support.
Thank you, Councillor Pavlovic. Michael, do you want to respond to Councillor Fenton, lessons learned at this point in time?
Sure. So, I mean, every day is a school day, absolutely. And retrofit work is expensive, it's technical, it can be disruptive. So it's a real challenge to deliver in people's homes. We're clearly learning lessons as we go along. We've got demonstrator projects. We're delivering. Our grant funding that we've applied for so far has been specifically designed to spread the net quite wide. So we're trying a bit of everything. We're learning lessons as we go. We're getting more efficient. We're feeding that into future programmes. And a big part of my task at the moment and over the coming months is to build that pipeline. We absolutely understand the desire from both officers and members to accelerate that. We need to get a really clear pipeline available, so as these grant funding opportunities become live, we're well placed to take advantage of them. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, everybody. So the recommendations, as Councillor Pavlovic said, are on page 61 under paragraph 11. We've got A to D there. There are a number of items we're asked to consider. So we are asked to delegate authority to the Director of Housing and Communities in consultation with Director of Finance and Director of Governance to accept funding offered by the department of energy security and net zero for the Warm Homes local grant programme, and to sign the memorandum of understanding to enable delivery of the works. Can I see those in favour of that recommendation? That's approved unanimously. Thank you. B is to delegate authority to the Director of Housing and Communities in consultation with the Director of Finance and the Director of Governance to procure a partner to deliver the Warm Home local grant programme, including entering into the delivery contract with the successfully procured new partner for April 25 to March 28 or March 2030 if funding is provided beyond 31st of March 2028. I see those in favour of that recommendation. Thank you. It's unanimously approved. C is to delegate authority to the Director of Housing and Communities in consultation with Director of Finance and the Director of Governance to accept funding offered by the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero for the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund programme, and to sign the memorandum of understanding to enable delivery of the works. Can I see those in favour of that? So that's approved unanimously as well. Thank you. And D, to delegate authority to the Director of Housing and Communities in consultation with the Director of Finance and the Director of Governance to procure a partner to deliver the Warm Home Social Housing Fund project, including entering into the delivery contract with the successfully procured new partner for April 2025 to March 2028. Can I see those in favour of that? Right, that's approved as well unanimously. So thank you for that, everybody. Really appreciate it. And please go out there and retrofit some houses for us. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the team. Thank you. Right, now we come on to the highlight of the evening, which is item number 8. And that is the adoption and implementation of the York Poverty Truth Commission's Charter for Organisational Standards. So, Jamie, you're going to come and sit at the table as well? You're okay where you are? Very good. Right, Pauline, are you going to start off then?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I can beat Kate and Jamie's introductions earlier, but hopefully I'll be able to get through this. So poverty in the Oxford Dictionary is described as a state of being poor, that is lacking the basic needs of life such as food, health, education and shelter. The important thing to recognise about poverty is that it's not that simple. It's not just about having a low income. There are complex, tangible human factors involved. Poverty may include hunger, homelessness, fear, anxiety, mental health decline, physical health decline, and the loss of dignity. How we treat people every day can increase their fear and anxiety, but it can also change somebody's day. If we see the person behind the trauma, we can be kind, understanding, listen, and we treat them with dignity and respect. In the Poverty Truth Commission, we heard and saw every one of those impacts in real time, manifested through the traumatic experiences of our fellow commissioners, every single one a resident of York. But we also experienced the extraordinary human beings that they are. Brave, determined, stoic, incredibly creative, positive, and just downright good friends. We learned from our experience that caring about each other made magic that replaced the awkward nervousness that we all experienced at the start. Imagine if we always skipped that first part and got straight down to caring about each other and being kind and respectful from the second we meet people for the first time. What these organisational standards in this report means for us is that kindness should be built into business decisions, our policies, and every contact with every resident in a way that supports everyone's mental health and also reduces discrimination and inequality. We can start very small with individual commitments to show kindness in our words and everyday actions, supported by bigger activities about how we consider and involve our residents' experience in our policies, our process changes, and our decision making. I'm not going to list and repeat what's in the report in terms of what has happened since the publication of the 4 organisational standards, because we are at the very start of the journey. Stage 1 is really recognising that we've got a job to do. Paragraphs 23 and 24 talk about how we're going to do that. And importantly, the recommendations at paragraph 11 hold us to account by asking officers to report in public every 6 months the work that we have done to implement the standards. So we ask executive to support the recommendations in this report so we can start the real work in becoming a kind and understanding organisation in ways that make a real difference to those who use our services. Can I thank all members of the Poverty Truth Commission for their hard work, the community commissioners for creating the standards, driving us really hard and holding us to account, and the civic commissioners for being authentic and for truly listening and caring. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Pauline. Kate or Lynn, do you want to say anything at this point? Would you like to say something?
Just that this is important. It's not rocket science. It is 4 simple strategies that those that have been there can help others to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Kate, do you want to say anything?
Just that nobody knows who's in poverty. That's another good thing. It's a hidden thing and people don't want to voice it. So if these are for everybody, if we're just kind to everybody that uses the services, it will have a massive impact on everybody, but more so those in poverty, because you can't see. Sometimes we might put our best outfit on and act like we're so well, but that's like, you know, so just this matters to everybody, and children shouldn't be punished for their parents. Maybe they've got addictions or whatever. This has a massive impact on everybody. Kindness, and doesn't cost anything. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Kate. And I'd just like to say also that along with Pauline, I was a civic commissioner as well, and it's one of the most challenging but rewarding and important things that I think that I've done since I've become the leader of the council. I was tremendously proud to sit alongside all of you for the months that we did that. And I've been missing you, to be honest. So it's lovely to see you here today. But as you've really eloquently said, it's not rocket science. It shouldn't be rocket science, but apparently for some people it is. And we are determined within the council to make sure that these organisational standards are adopted and used in everyday interactions with all different types of people that come into the council and touch our council services. And I'd just like to draw everybody's attention to what those 4 things are that we're asking everybody to do. And the first one's on page 95. And number 1 is we listen, and we listen carefully and proactively. Number 2 is that we're understanding and accept people for who they are when they are in front of us. We are respectful and friendly. We make eye contact, we speak appropriately, and we listen carefully and make sure that we're reflecting back to people what we've heard. And then finally, number 4, we're responsive, honest, and care about getting you the right support. And so today is the beginning of a process that will be accelerated within the council. So I will stop there myself, but just wondering if anybody else wants to say anything at this point. Councillor Fenton, please go ahead, and then Councillor Lomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to add my thanks to York CVS, to the commissioners, to everyone who's sort of played a part in this journey from, I think, 2021, the inception event was, and then a launch event, and then the work has carried on. And I think I agree, this is a start in terms of embedding these expectations, these behaviours within the council, within individuals, and within, I think councillors have a role to play in terms of championing these standards. And holding the authority to account where we see situations unfolding where we think those standards are not being met, having the confidence and the ability to do that. And so I think we've got work to do within our groups to share a knowledge and understanding of what these standards mean, so that we can play our part as representatives. I think it's going to be important also, and I'm sure this will happen, in terms of the work that's in train, developing the neighbourhood model, working with health colleagues, so that these standards are the core of building those new models of service. In terms of customer experience, I know there's a customer experience review, and these standards will obviously need to play a part in informing that. But yeah, along with others, look forward to playing a role in embedding these in everything we do.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. Councillor Lomas.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who's been part of this work, and especially to you all for coming and speaking to us today, because it makes a difference when we hear from the people that were in the room when these standards were developed. I just wanted to reflect a couple of things that have been said. Kate, when you spoke at the beginning of the meeting, you talked about kindness and empathy, and that really struck me from reading the report, from reading the standards, was that this is kindness and empathy, and that's something we should all strive for. And Jamie, you talked about this bringing into the light the sometimes hidden problems, and also you said this is how we should do it in York. And I think that's something that we should all hold on to, and we should look for this to be taken on board right across the city in every service that is provided across the city. So I suppose what I'm saying there is that I don't think this should stop with the council, that this is something that we should ensure is taken forward. And I know, Kate, you said earlier about training doctors and nurses, which is really exciting. And I think, we've got a role as leaders in the city to make sure that really genuinely is embedded. And I loved the way that you talked about this not being rocket science, because I don't think it is it? And also, we so often, when we talk about things to do with inclusion, we talk about if we get it right, we get it better for everyone, and that's really important as well. And I think it was UK that wasn't it that said you don't necessarily know that somebody's in poverty. So if we use this as our starting point, then we're getting it right for everyone. I'm really excited that it'll be my decision sessions that the progress reports come to, and I'll be really excited to hear those, just as I've been excited to already hear some of the things that have come out of the discussions as the commission has gone on, and changes that might seem small to some people but really make a big difference in practice. Changes to the way that the council words the letters that we send to people, changes to the way we deliver our customer services, changes to the way we communicate with people. And you should be really proud that even before you'd got your report out and before your standards were out there, that you're already making a difference. Maybe you'll like to come, some of you might come along to some of the decision sessions when we have the progress reports, so that we can really make sure you're holding us to account for continuing to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lomas. Right, so this is the exciting part then. Recommendations are on page 85, paragraph 11. And so the council's executive is asked to note the work of the York Poverty Truth Commission and the council to date in promoting and implementing the organisational standards, formally adopt the Charter for Organisational Standards developed by the York Poverty Truth Commission, and approve a published 6-monthly monitoring report for the executive member for finance, performance, major projects, human rights, equality and inclusion. And can I see those who are in favour of those recommendations? So that is unanimously approved. that is it. We will get on and implement through the through City of York Council, and we will promote it in the wider city as well, as Councillor Lomas has outlined. And we look forward to seeing you in 6 months' time to tell you what we have managed to achieve. Thank you very much for coming today. All right, see you. Bye. Right, item number 9 then is review of the City of York Council scrutiny function, and we have Lindsay Tomlinson here with us today to introduce us to this report. So Lindsay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so as members are aware, we've had a review of the scrutiny function by the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny. So that started off last year with an all-member survey. And that was followed by some interviews with members either in groups or individually, depending on the role that members held. Most of those were done in person. That was, I think, the last week of November that the interviews took place. All of the evidence then was gathered by the reviewers, and they came up with a set of draft recommendations and came along to a couple of briefings to present them to members. So they presented first of all to all scrutiny and non-executive members in January, and then the following week they presented the draft recommendations to the executive. The draft recommendations then became final recommendations. There wasn't really much tweaking between draft and final, just a slight change in the order and the emphasis so that the recommendations flowed and gave a narrative that made sense. So the final recommendations came out, and what we did as officers was take each of the 12 recommendations and try to put them into a suggested action plan to just give members some ideas to work and start off at 10. I think it was referred to as last night at scrutiny. Start off at 10 about how you might want to take forward those recommendations. Just to pick up the point that was made by one of the public speakers, the 12 recommendations are the recommendations set out in Annex A, which is the CFGS report. The action plan is a slightly abridged version of those recommendations, just because it would make it very unwieldy and difficult to manage if we put every single word in there. So I thought it was clear from the report that it should be the full recommendations that we're talking about in each of those stages of the action plan. So the report and the action plan was considered by Corporate Services, Climate Change and Scrutiny Management Committee at its meeting last night. And the committee went through each of the 12 recommendations to give their views on the potential actions that we would take as an authority in terms of implementing those recommendations. All of the chairs and vice chairs of the other scrutiny committees were invited along to the meeting to give their views as well. So there was some really good input from all members into that. We have submitted to you the updated Annex B, which includes the comments that came forward from the scrutiny meeting last night. So you have in front of you the views of scrutiny members about each of those recommendations. So I think that's probably enough from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Lindsay. And just so everybody is aware that Councillor Fenton is the chair of the Corporate Scrutiny Committee that reviewed the recommendations last night. So I think I'll ask you to say what you would like to next, Councillor Fenton, on feedback on process, and like yesterday evening would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Lindsay, for turning around the feedback from last night's meeting. So quickly, it was, I think, a very helpful session in which we could, in some ways, go back to basics and remind ourselves what scrutiny should be about, and recognising that we're some way from an ideal situation, and the results of the member survey indicated that there's a general sense of I think a need to improve, and I think the proposals set out in Annex B give us a kind of a route map. I think the proposal for a working group, which I'm sure will be a cross-party working group, to further develop the proposals is critical for scrutiny to be effective. It has to be member-owned, it has to be member-led, it has to be collaborative. sometimes we do succeed in doing that. Sometimes we don't. But we have to make, I think, a concerted effort to set standards and to hold ourselves to those standards in how we operate as a scrutiny function. I think the proposal to have a dedicated scrutiny staff resource should help us in that. I think it's been, I don't think through anyone's design, we've just moved away from a situation where we had that dedicated support. So if if it's agreed to proceed with that, then we need to make sure that resource is appropriately deployed in support of putting in place an improved scrutiny function that works for members, it works for the administration, it works for residents, because ultimately the point of scrutiny is to improve, is to assist with development and implementation of policies which hopefully benefit residents. So in terms of the outputs of the discussion last night, the updated Annex B gives you an indication of which proposals were supported by scrutiny. I think you'll see that they were all supported, with a few tweaks to some of the wording, just to better reflect some members' comments and feedback from public speakers. It was proposal number 8 on which there was not so much disagreement, but there were a number of kind of views expressed, and there wasn't a consensus. I think there was a recognition that to create the space for task and finish groups and for members to receive briefing, as opposed to monthly scrutiny meetings being packed full of items that are simply for members to note. There was support for moving to public meetings every other month to enable space for that work to happen. Where there was, I suppose, not a consensus was whether we go from the current structure of 4 scrutiny committees to 3 or to 2. There were arguments saying, well, if we're going to try something new, let's try something new, and jump in with both feet and crucially evaluate the outcome of that. Again, once we're clear what good scrutiny looks like, then evaluating whether a new model delivers against those metrics or not, or whether we take a more gradual approach and move from 4 committees to 3. So there'd still be additional capacity in terms of fewer meetings, there'd still be more room for task and finish groups, but there would still be a continuing demand on democratic services in terms of, and officers, in terms of producing the reports to service those meetings, and also making sure that from a transparency perspective, that members of the public are able to interact with the scrutiny function through public meetings where they can register to speak, where they can sit at the table and join those discussions, which is again something where not as good at as we could be in terms of involving, and I hate the word service users, citizens, residents in informing our understanding and helping shape our recommendations. So I suppose that's the question which executive may wish to discuss and consider in terms of proposal number 8, whether what recommendation you would like to put forward to then go to full council at the end of March, where ultimately we will all decide how we want to proceed. But I'm pleased that there is support on pretty much everything, and even the support for a reduction in the number of committees. There's just that question mark as to whether the extent to which we are sort of radically moving to 2 rather than 3.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for your constructive and proactive role in this process, Councillor Fenton. It's really important on things like this that we do all work together, because every member of the council is affected by it to some extent, or lesser or greater extent, and with their involvement in scrutiny committees and that important role that members take part in. So Lindsay wanted to say something
I just
further.
wanted to come, sorry, Councillor Bennett, there was one recommendation that wasn't supported by scrutiny, which was recommendation 3 about substitute members. So members didn't feel comfortable to take that recommendation forward.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Lindsay. And so we've got the annex that was sent through to us, the agenda supplement, which outlines where all of the agreement was, and as has already been outlined to you, the majority were, it's item number 3, where the recommendation was for substitute members to have named substitutes, and the scrutiny committee did not agree with that, and I am in agreement with their disagreement. So that's my proposal to full council, is that we don't have named substitutes for scrutiny committees on recommendation number 3. And then the other one where there was no clear consensus and a range of very constructive and fair views was recommendation number 8, which is on page 6, and that was about the number of scrutiny committees. The recommendation was just a starting point for 2. I believe that we should go to 3 for the first 12 months and test out how that works. It was very helpfully noted by the scrutiny committee that we are all looking for a change in approach and culture of scrutiny and its impact as well. So over that 12-month period, we should review whether the 3 committee structure actually does deliver on that desire of all members, to be honest, through the review that they took place in. And yes, reduced number of meetings to bi-monthly, and also a reduced number of members on the committee meetings. So at this point in time, I'd like to recommend that we go to 9 members on each of the 3 scrutiny committees and see how that goes as well, and whether that delivers a better outcome for us too. So those were the 3 items, or the 2 recommendations that we've been asked to put forward to full council. So if we go back to the agenda document, the recommendations for this review are on page 101, and they're at paragraph 11. And so it says executive is asked to consider the proposed recommendations set out in the scrutiny review action plan at Annex B, alongside the comments received from the meeting of the Corporate Services Climate Change and Scrutiny Management Committee held on the 10th of March, which was yesterday, and instruct officers on the direction to be taken in respect of review recommendations 1 to 2, 4 to 7 and 9 to 12, all of which there has been consensus and agreement around, and to recommend those, to support those recommendations. And number 2 on there is to agree any recommendation to be presented to full council for determination in respect of review recommendation 3, which is substitute members. We don't agree with the recommendation on that one. And 8, scrutiny committee structure and membership, and I have just outlined that to you. So before we vote on that, I'm just aware that Councillor Kilbane was at the meeting last night with me to listen to scrutiny members and their views. Do you want to say anything on this, Councillor Kilbane?
Just thank you, Chair. I think that is a very accurate reflection of the discussion that we had last night. It was interesting. I think it's almost like we're at the start of a new way of trying to do things here, because at the start of the meeting last night, one of the public speakers said, it doesn't matter what you talk about tonight, because the meeting's tomorrow and you're just going to do whatever you want anyway. And I understand that. I understand the cynicism that there is around politics. And part of the reason for that cynicism is that we all do things in a tribal way, you know, from our own little camps and all the Yahoo stuff that, quite frankly, the public have got no time for at all. And I think what this gives us the opportunity to do is to move away from that and into a more constructive form of politics that delivers the best that we can for the residents of this city. And if you like, this is almost a case in point, because not only have we taken on board everything that that came from the Corporate Scrutiny Committee recommendations last night, where there has been some doubt, such as whether to go to 2 or 3, we have erred on the side of caution, listening to what people were saying, and we will go down to those 3 committees. So we'll have 2 committees where we can be actively involved in developing good policy for the people of York, and then another committee that looks and quite rightly scrutinises the performance of us as a council. So I would just also like to thank Councillor Fenton for his chairing of the Scrutiny Committee last night. It was quite a big agenda, but I think we managed to get the best out of that meeting again for the benefit of the people of York. And I think we can almost see the new future here today with the positive contributions that Councillor Fenton has made throughout this meeting, not just to this particular item, and I would like to thank him for that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Kilbane. Yes, it's a refreshing day, isn't it, when we've had a very positive executive. So Francis has just asked me to clarify that on recommendation number 1 in the agenda supplement, that the working group it was agreed should be cross-party working group. So we want to make sure that that's in there too. So Lindsay, do you wanted to say something further before we go ahead?
Just ask for clarity, Chair, please. In terms of the 3 committees, does the executive want to determine now what those committees are, or are you happy for that discussion to be held between now and the full council meeting in terms of exactly what the split is between those 2
Proposal
committees?
is for an overview committee that will have polling function as well, the corporate scrutiny, for place committee and a people committee.
Thank you.
And people would include housing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, okay, back to the recommendations then, page 101. 11, paragraph 11.1, instruct officers on direction, etc., etc. Yes, we are in agreement with all of those. Can I see those in agreement with that, in favour? That's approved unanimously. And then point number 2, recommendations for review recommendation 3 and 8 as I outlined earlier. Can I see those who are in agreement with that? So that's approved as well unanimously. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for all your work, and thanks to the team who supported you in doing that work, and to CFGS. Am I got that right? I'm not very good with acronyms. Yeah, very marvellous. Thank you very much for that, everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight, Lindsay. So going back to the agenda then, we have no urgent business, which is item number 10. So on that, I bring the meeting to a close and thank everybody for participation and attendance this evening. Goodbye.